2,800 kilometers of fortified coastline. Chinese anti-ship missiles that can sink destroyers. Russian torpedo boats hiding in shallow waters. Submarine-launched weapons targeting U.S. naval forces. But here's what the Pentagon doesn't want you to know. Venezuela's coastal defense system might actually pose a real threat to American naval dominance in the Caribbean. What if I told you that Venezuelan missiles could potentially sink a U.S. destroyer before American forces even know they're under attack? What if Venezuela's coastline has been transformed into the most dangerous naval trap in the Western Hemisphere? The classified intelligence we found will change everything you think about American naval superiority. Right now, U.S. Navy destroyers are positioning themselves within range of Venezuelan coastal defenses. The Pentagon claims overwhelming technological superiority. But Venezuelan coastal defense planners have spent 15 years studying exactly how to kill American warships. And they might have found some answers that should terrify naval commanders. Venezuela controls one of the longest coastlines in the Caribbean, with 2,800 kilometers of strategic waterfront stretching from Colombia to Guyana. This isn't just empty beach. It's been systematically fortified with overlapping fields of anti-ship missile coverage designed specifically to counter U.S. naval operations. But the real threat isn't the length of Venezuela's coastline. It's what they've hidden along it. And why American naval intelligence might have seriously underestimated Venezuelan capabilities. Venezuelan coastal defense centers on Chinese-supplied C-802A anti-ship cruise missiles deployed at strategic points along the Caribbean shore. These aren't Cold War relics. They're modern precision weapons specifically designed to penetrate naval armor and sink major warships. Each C-802A carries a 165-kilogram high-explosive warhead traveling at nearly the speed of sound. The missile flies at just 15 meters above sea level, making radar detection extremely difficult until the final moments before impact. Modern naval radar systems are optimized for high-altitude threats, not sea-skimming missiles approaching from the wavetops. Here's what makes this particularly dangerous for U.S. naval forces. The C-802A has a combat range of 120 kilometers. That means Venezuelan coastal batteries can engage American destroyers from distances where the U.S. ships might not even know they're under attack until missiles are already inbound. Intelligence reports suggest Venezuela has deployed multiple C-802 batteries at concealed positions along the coastline, creating overlapping coverage zones that force American ships into dangerous approach corridors where they cannot avoid missile engagement ranges. But the Chinese missiles are just the beginning of Venezuela's coastal defense system. Russia has provided Venezuela with additional anti-ship capabilities, including the Moskva Coastal Defense Missile System armed with P-15 Termit missiles. These Soviet-era weapons have been modernized with updated guidance systems and electronic warfare packages. The P-15 missile carries a 500-kilogram warhead, 3 times larger than the Chinese C-802. While less sophisticated than modern weapons, the sheer destructive power of a P-15 hit could potentially sink or mission kill an American destroyer. Russian military advisors have helped Venezuela position these missile systems at strategic points where they can cover the main sea approaches to Venezuelan ports and territorial waters. The combination of Chinese precision and Russian firepower creates a layered coastal defense that American naval forces would have to penetrate to conduct operations near Venezuelan shores. Venezuelan naval forces have also received modern torpedo boats and patrol craft equipped with shorter-range anti-ship missiles. These fast attack craft can operate in shallow coastal waters where larger American warships cannot follow, launching hit-and-run attacks before retreating to protected harbors. The psychological impact on U.S. naval commanders could be significant. American destroyers are designed to operate in deep ocean environments where their radar and missile systems provide overwhelming advantages. Operating close to hostile shores defended by modern anti-ship weapons represents a much more dangerous tactical environment. Venezuela's coastal geography provides natural advantages that enhance their defensive capabilities. The Caribbean coast includes numerous bays, inlets, and offshore islands that can conceal missile batteries and naval craft from satellite surveillance. The shallow waters near Venezuelan shores limit the maneuverability of large American warships while providing ideal operating areas for Venezuelan patrol boats and coastal defense systems. U.S. destroyers attempting to approach Venezuelan territory would be forced into predictable approach routes where coastal missiles could engage them effectively. Venezuelan planners have studied historical examples of coastal defense success against superior naval forces. The lessons learned from Chinese coastal defense against Taiwan, Iranian threats to U.S. naval forces in the Persian Gulf, and North Korean coastal defense systems have all influenced Venezuelan strategy. Modern anti-ship missiles have fundamentally changed the balance between coastal defense and naval power projection. Small, relatively inexpensive missiles can potentially disable or destroy naval vessels, costing billions of dollars. This asymmetric advantage allows countries with limited naval forces to pose serious threats to major naval powers. Venezuelan coastal defense isn't designed to win naval battles against the U.S. Navy. It's designed to make American naval operations so costly and dangerous that political leaders question whether military objectives are worth the potential losses. American naval commanders understand these threats and have developed countermeasures, but no defensive system is completely effective against determined attack. The Aegis combat system aboard U.S. destroyers can intercept many incoming missiles, but saturation attacks using multiple missiles launched simultaneously can overwhelm defensive capabilities. Here's what naval analysts don't want to discuss publicly. Modern naval warfare heavily favors whoever shoots first. If Venezuelan coastal batteries can detect and engage American destroyers before the U.S. ships identify and neutralize the missile sites, Venezuelan forces might achieve tactical success even against technologically superior opponents. The element of surprise becomes crucial in anti-ship missile engagements. Venezuelan missiles launched from concealed coastal positions could potentially achieve complete surprise against American naval forces focused on other threats or unaware of specific battery locations. Intelligence preparation becomes the decisive factor in determining engagement outcomes. If American forces have precise intelligence about Venezuelan missile sites, they can neutralize coastal defenses using Tomahawk cruise missiles launched from submarines or standoff ranges. But if intelligence is incomplete or inaccurate, American ships could sail into engagement zones without adequate preparation. Venezuelan coastal defense planners have invested heavily in concealment and deception measures designed to hide missile batteries from American surveillance. Mobile missile systems can relocate frequently to avoid detection. Decoy installations can attract American attacks away from real defensive positions. Electronic warfare capabilities allow Venezuelan forces to jam or deceive American radar and navigation systems. While U.S. Navy electronic warfare technology is generally superior, Venezuelan systems could potentially create enough confusion to complicate American targeting and defensive responses during missile engagements. The most dangerous scenario for U.S. naval forces would be coordinated attacks using multiple missile types launched simultaneously from different positions along the Venezuelan coast. Such attacks could potentially overwhelm ship defensive systems and achieve hits on American vessels. Venezuelan planners have also considered unconventional threats to American naval forces. Small boats carrying explosive charges, naval mines deployed in shipping channels, and swimmer delivery vehicles carrying limpet mines could potentially damage or sink American warships through surprise attacks. The psychological dimension of coastal defense might be as important as the physical capabilities. If Venezuelan forces successfully damage or sink a U.S. naval vessel, the political impact could be enormous regardless of the ultimate military outcome. American public opinion has historically been sensitive to military casualties, particularly when they occur during operations that lack clear popular support. A successful Venezuelan attack on U.S. naval forces could potentially change American political calculations about military intervention. However, Venezuelan coastal defense capabilities should not be overestimated. American naval forces possess overwhelming advantages in surveillance, intelligence, electronic warfare, and firepower that would likely prevail in extended operations. U.S. Navy submarines operating underwater beyond Venezuelan detection capabilities could systematically destroy coastal missile sites using Tomahawk cruise missiles. American destroyers equipped with Aegis systems have sophisticated defensive capabilities specifically designed to counter anti-ship missile threats. Most importantly, American naval doctrine emphasizes the use of overwhelming force to minimize risks to U.S. personnel and equipment. Rather than accepting Venezuelan coastal defense challenges, American forces would likely use standoff weapons and electronic warfare to neutralize threats before conducting close-in operations. The real question isn't whether Venezuelan coastal defenses could defeat the U.S. Navy in extended conflict. The question is whether they could inflict sufficient damage during initial engagements to change American political calculations about military intervention. Modern naval warfare occurs at extremely high speeds, with minimal time for human decision-making. Missile engagements can begin and end within minutes, leaving little opportunity for diplomatic intervention or political reconsideration once shooting starts. This creates risks for both sides. Venezuelan forces might achieve tactical success in initial engagements, but face overwhelming retaliation from American forces determined to eliminate threats to U.S. naval personnel. American forces might avoid initial casualties, but face the requirement to conduct extensive operations against prepared defenses. The broader strategic picture suggests that Venezuelan coastal defenses serve primarily as deterrent rather than decisive combat capabilities. The goal isn't to defeat the U.S. Navy, but to make American military intervention costly enough that political leaders choose diplomatic solutions instead. Whether this deterrent effect actually influences American decision-making depends on factors beyond military capabilities: domestic political support for intervention, international opinion about American actions, and strategic objectives that require military force regardless of potential costs. Recent intelligence assessments suggest Venezuelan coastal defense systems may be less capable than claimed due to maintenance problems, training deficiencies, and equipment reliability issues. Many weapon systems might exist on paper, but not function effectively during actual combat operations. American naval intelligence agencies have likely developed detailed assessments of Venezuelan capabilities, including specific locations of missile sites, technical specifications of weapons systems, and operational readiness levels of defensive forces. The psychological impact of intelligence penetration could be as important as the physical capabilities on both sides. If Venezuelan commanders believe their positions and capabilities are known to American forces, their willingness to engage might be reduced. If American commanders are confident about their intelligence assessments, they might be more willing to accept tactical risks. But intelligence can be wrong, and combat situations often develop in unexpected ways. Both sides are preparing for scenarios that might not match the actual circumstances of potential conflict. So should the U.S. Navy actually worry about Venezuelan coastal defenses? The answer depends on what worry means in this context. American naval forces should absolutely take Venezuelan anti-ship capabilities seriously and plan operations accordingly. Underestimating coastal defense systems has historically led to naval disasters, and Venezuelan missiles represent genuine threats that could potentially damage or sink American warships. But worry, in the sense of questioning American naval superiority or avoiding operations near Venezuelan waters, would be excessive. U.S. Navy capabilities, training, and experience provide overwhelming advantages that would likely prevail in any realistic conflict scenario. The most probable outcome of naval operations near Venezuela would be American success achieved at higher cost and with greater complexity than operations against opponents without modern coastal defense systems. Venezuelan defenses might delay American objectives and inflict some casualties, but they would not prevent American naval forces from achieving their missions. However, modern naval warfare involves risks that cannot be completely eliminated through technological superiority. A lucky shot, equipment malfunction, intelligence failure, or tactical surprise could potentially result in American naval casualties regardless of overall capability advantages. These risks shape both military planning and political decision-making in ways that extend far beyond the immediate military balance. The possibility of naval casualties, however remote, influences American strategic calculations about when and how to use military force. Venezuelan coastal defense capabilities represent one element in a complex strategic equation that includes diplomatic, economic, political, and military factors. Military capabilities alone do not determine political outcomes, but they influence the cost-benefit analysis that shapes political decisions. As tensions continue in the Caribbean and both sides prepare for potential conflict, naval commanders on both sides are undoubtedly studying historical precedents, updating intelligence assessments, and preparing for scenarios they hope will never occur. The ultimate question isn't whether Venezuelan coastal defenses could stop the U.S. Navy. They couldn't. The question is whether they could make American naval operations costly enough to influence political decisions about military intervention. And that question might not be answered until shooting actually starts. What do you think about Venezuela's coastal defense capabilities? Could they really threaten U.S. naval forces? Or is this just propaganda designed to deter American intervention? How would you assess the risks facing both sides in potential naval operations? Share your analysis in the comments below. And if this naval breakdown revealed capabilities and risks you hadn't considered before, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because naval warfare is evolving rapidly, and understanding these changes is crucial for understanding modern geopolitical conflicts. The age of unchallenged naval supremacy might be ending. The question is whether traditional naval powers are prepared for the new reality.